welcome back to the Football Forecast Triple Threat episode number 2. I'm going to try to merge both of these videos together in post-processing. We'll see how well that goes. So we are back. I don't know what we were talking about before. Oh, yeah, Cowboys and Bears, right? So I think we're all good. You guys have
Yes.
audios, but yeah, Cowboys and Bears. All right, so we're talking about those elite defenses, or the elite defense right now on the Cowboys. Turned out they actually do have a pretty elite defense over there, and the linebacker core, right? The linebacker core and all that. And then when we got out of that, so Cowboys winning this game, most likely. You guys think?
Yeah,
See,
most likely.
the main reason I think Cowboys win is that if their defenses show up like we're saying, the Cowboys kicker, Brett Maher, who took over for Dan Bailey, is
Right.
a much better kicker, or at least a more proven and more clutch kicker than Eddie Pinheiro for the Bears.
That's a good take. That's a good take. Yeah. I would say that's a pretty good take.
So if it comes down to kicking, like a kicking game, I definitely put it in the Cowboys, advantage.
Yeah, I would say that. Normally, Bears games always come down to the kicking.
Yeah.
Oh man, don't get Bears fans started on that. I mean,
I know, right?
For real. All right, so move on from that for a little bit. So that conference, the NFC East, very very weak. We know that the Cowboys are going to run away with it now because of how everybody's looking. So we do have an NFC East matchup this week: the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Giants obviously being 2-10, one of those teams like the Dolphins, Bengals, they're just gonna kind of be tanking here, and the Eagles, they're at 5-7, so they're sitting same record as the Panthers right now, sitting at that 5-7 record. So the Eagles obviously need this win more, but I doubt either of them actually need this win at this point in the season. But I mean, realistically, people are saying the Giants could win this game. This could be their third win of the season. But the Eagles probably still have the upper hand. But I mean, do you guys think it's possible for the Giants to kind of come out here and make this a little bit of a practice for Eli Manning coming back and trying to get this win? Do you think it's possible?
Honestly, I do. If Daniel Jones is playing, I feel like the Eagles' pressure with Fletcher Cox and all of those guys, Brandon Graham, I feel like he'd be too overwhelmed and he wouldn't be able to do anything. But now Eli Manning back, Eli Manning's pretty much seen everything. They're obviously not going to rely on his arm. They're Saquon really hasn't been used too much in the past few weeks, so I feel like they're going to lean heavily on Saquon, and I feel like they very well have a chance to get a win out of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see them winning, but at the same time, I can't say for sure because, like you said, Saquon Barkley, he's had some down games here recently.
Yeah. Yep.
Teams are used to just.
Sorry.
I was like, what?
Why is there two of me?
Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead.
But like I was saying, yeah, Saquon Barkley has been used as much as he's used to, or he's just not had the best games like he used to. He's just got to get back to that rhythm after his injury.
Yeah, for sure.
They kind of weakened down one of those running backs, and those injuries just kind of start taking a toll on you, like Todd Gurley almost, But he's obviously had a little bit more experience with that. But yeah, it's going to be a pretty exciting matchup. If you would have told me that, Eli Manning would still be on the bench, I probably wouldn't even care to tune in or look at the score afterwards. But I don't know. It could be a little nice matchup. Probably one of Eli Manning's last starts. Maybe his last start, depending on how well he does. Everybody thought it was his last start before Daniel Jones came in. Everybody was saying, oh, he could retire mid-season, but I don't really know what Eli's doing. What is he doing? Is he just trying to fulfill his contract? Or, why is he there? He could easily just retire, walk away from it now.
I don't think Eli wants to retire. I think Eli wants to continue playing because you look at Phillip Rivers as well. Phillip Rivers is not going to return after this season to the Chargers. He will not come back. They aren't going to sign him, and he's not going to want to take the job back. He's going to leave. And Phillip Rivers is the same draft class as Eli Manning. So they both, I don't know why they're still holding on because their arms, they're mush, and They're not the way they used to be. Phillip Rivers had that great season last year, and that was pretty much his last good season, I would say. And they're going to try to hold on like Peyton Manning did, even though Peyton Manning clearly should have retired. But, he wanted the Super Bowl win. I don't blame him. And I feel like their years are going to be one, maybe 2 more years, and they'll both retire.
Yeah, I see like the Eli Manning situation. I'm good.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Okay, just make sure. But yeah, the Eli Manning situation. I see him wanting to continue to be like almost like a mentor because he does love the Giants. Obviously, he played his whole career there. He doesn't want to leave them on a bad note by not mentoring the new young quarterback. He wants to. That's almost like his new style of play is just mentoring Daniel Jones. That's what he does now. And I don't. That and also it could be like an Andrew Luck situation. He retires mid-season. Giants fans would be upset. They'd probably be like, oh, left Daniel Jones up high and dry, didn't want to mentor him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, we saw Joe Flacco at the beginning of the season say he didn't want to mentor Drew Lock, and look at what he got. I mean, look at the response he got. So,
yeah, that was disgusting.
Seriously, that's the best way I can explain that. I don't feel the same.
I didn't mean to say it like that.
I mean, that's 100% true. He's not he's a hateful person, man. I feel hate towards him, towards Joe.
I know
Flacco.
he thinks he's an elite quarterback, but he's really not. He had the best defense in the league when they won the Super Bowl. That was it.
I mean,
and
exactly.
And John Harbaugh honestly deserves head coach of the year because he absolutely, I believe in this league, excluding Bill Belichick, I believe John Harbaugh is the best head coach in the league just because of everything he's had to deal with. He's had to deal with Joe Flacco for the past 5 years after Super Bowl, and to see what he's come up with, to see the leaps that they've made. He drafted Lamar Miller, and he technically didn't draft him, but the team drafted him, and he's absolutely turned Lamar Miller into sorry, I keep saying Miller, Lamar Jackson into an MVP caliber quarterback. Most likely is going to win the MVP, and Lamar Miller is Lamar Jackson. Not bad for a running back, but Lamar Jackson. He's gonna be a great quarterback in this league, and I can't wait to see who his rival is because Tom Brady has his Eli Manning, Peyton Manning had Drew Brees and Tom Brady. Well, pretty much everyone has Tom Brady.
Well, I mean, you're talking about John Harbaugh, right? I mean, so if we compare these guys and we're looking at coaches that are good and that have had to deal with a lot of stuff for a long time that makes them appear not that way. Look at Andy Reid and then look at Patrick Mahomes. Those guys can be rivals for years to come.
That's very true.
I was just about to say that. Remember the game last year whenever the Ravens and Chiefs played and it came down to the freaking wire, dude?
Yes, the no-look pass. The famous fourth down no-look pass.
I could see that because they seem to be the top 2 quarterbacks in the AFC. They're going to be the 2 runners of that whole conference. For for the next probably decade or whatever it is, for those quarterbacks, and I feel like they're going to be the top dogs, and they're going to be the rivals that we were talking about now.
Yeah,
exactly.
I definitely see that.
If Andy Reid, could stay, I mean, he's pretty old. If he can stay healthy, I mean, though John and Andy will be the 2 best coaches in the AFC for sure. I mean, Mike Tomlin will be up there too, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit.
I actually disagree with that statement.
I think Mike Tomlin's not.
I don't think so. Look at what Mike Tomlin's had to deal with.
He is 75 with all that.
Yeah. Look at his quarterback. Ben went down. Doesn't have AB. Doesn't have Le'Veon Bell. He's had a 4th-string quarterback from the practice squad. He doesn't have his starting running back in what's his name? James Conner. And Deontay Johnson. Yes, sir. Reppin' Leonard. He's had, they're depth guys, honestly. Juju Smith-Schuster is not a number 1 receiver, and I don't care what Madden says. I don't care. Madden gave him an X factor. He's not a number 1 receiver. He is a complimentary receiver. He's good with number 2. He's a great slot receiver. He's a great number 2, but he is not a number 1. He cannot lead a number 1 receiving core.
Did Juju go undrafted? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, he's the second round draft
Yeah,
pick.
yeah.
All right. I was about to, say he really wasn't painted as a primary, and they brought him in to expected to play a primary, and that's pretty much what's happening now.
Yeah.
That old position at wide receiver that they have, it's pretty stacked, especially when, they brought as much as it's hard to say. I mean, Deontay Johnson, I can't just, say it's biased because it's not. I mean, he's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody that's
Yeah,
from our high school.
He's got 423 yards and 3 touchdowns so far this season, and
Hey, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, for a rookie, just to come in and have to be thrown into a starting role like that, I mean, you can ask for a better, stat line,
with like 4 different quarterbacks he's dealt with this year, or 3.
Just for comparison, he has more touchdowns right now than Julio had at the same time last year.
Yep.
That's pretty crazy. That is.
What's up with Julio?
Julio.
Julio. His touchdowns have been slacking in the recent years. I mean, he still gets the yards, of course, but his touchdowns, they're not looking so good.
I think overall it's because, Calvin Ridley. No, but teams have been able to figure out this little fade route thing that he's been kind of known to throw. Coverages. It's all the flats and it's all like the back seams and things like that. Because in the red zone, it's these backhand over the shoulder fade routes that Julio is so good at, right? And then
right.
Matt Ryan, exactly. And Matt Ryan complemented those so well in the first 4 seasons that Julio had there. And then, teams kind of started to figure that out, especially lately. I think you saw that a little bit after Super Bowl 51. Teams started kind of figuring that out. And we really saw that against the Eagles. Every time the Falcons played the Eagles in the past 2 years, they took those away. The Patriots tried to take that away too with Malcolm Butler. As we all know, Julio is able to kind of moss Malcolm Butler a couple times. So it straight comes up to his physicality. That's why they drafted him, and that's why he is where he is in the league. Is because he's physical. He's the biggest receiver that can run as fast as Antonio Brown, as fast as his teammate Calvin Ridley. I mean, he can run as fast as all those guys, and he's so big. So it really just comes down to, does coverage outweigh the physicality of Julio Jones? In a lot of cases, especially in the last couple of years, yeah. This year, though, I don't know. So that's probably why they got Calvin Ridley, to separate the double coverage on Julio and make these guys expand their coverage and not tighten in, focus on Julio. And now he's really redeeming and getting rewards from Calvin Ridley at this point in the season.
Yeah, that's to me almost like when the Bucs brought in Chris Godwin, because Mike Evans before was the only big receiver we had, the only good receiver the Bucs had, and so you throw Chris Godwin in the mix now, and he's having a better season than Mike Evans. Mike Evans says he's not a number 2 receiver; they're both number 1s. So I think it's like the same situation to help draw the coverage way, kind of even out the defense. So.
And, it would be okay if the Falcons were winning games, but they're not, they're losing games. And it's different if you have your star wide receiver and, he's being covered. He's still getting yards, not as many touchdowns. And you have Calvin Ridley and other guys stepping up and catching all the touchdowns. That's different. But it's they're not winning games. So honestly, I'm not saying this to say that Julio Jones isn't the best receiver in the league, because I honestly believe he is. You're wasting his talent. You have a quarterback in Matt Ryan who obviously can't do very much anymore. Pretty much after a Super Bowl, he hasn't done anything. And I guess that's the Tom Brady curse. Whenever you lose a Super Bowl to the Patriots, you suck. I mean, look at Nick Foles. Well, Nick Foles beat Tom Brady, and he's still benched for Gardner Minshew.
I mean, yeah, overall, especially this is a theme this year. And last year it wasn't so much, but this year the fact is that the Falcons still have a top 5 offense, but the defense is so bad and so inconsistent at so many levels. And, just for comparison, last year, Matt Ryan was at the top of quarterbacks. I mean, he was a leader in passing yards, and Julio was leading receiving yards as well. But it was their inability to convert in the red zone last year that was able to, draw Julio and Matt Ryan away from any, talk and not winning games. Also on the defense, couldn't stop anybody. But now, this year, it's very lopsided. The offense has gotten better. The defense has gotten even worse. This year, what the Falcons have done offensively is on par with, almost anybody in the league besides, the Ravens, obviously, because, Lamar Jackson. But against Houston, it was 53-32. That's a pretty decent defense to score 32 points on. Pretty good defense there. New Orleans scored 26 against that defense. Only let up 9, but, that's that was the point where the Falcons were winning the NFC South and looked like the best team in the NFC for about 2 games, and then decided that they were just gonna start putting in all the backups on defense, I guess, and then give play calling back to Dan Quinn, or maybe let some 10-year-old in the stands start calling plays for defense, because now I don't know what's going on. Yeah, lost to Tampa Bay 35-22, but that offense was able to put up 22 points on them. And even in the beginning of the season, 24 points against the Eagles on a defense that's kind of regressed. But at the first game with 12 points, they didn't look too hot. But they definitely have progressed after that. 24 against the Colts, 32 against Houston, like I just said. 20 against Seattle, who has an okay defense, but this year the weak defense is what's putting Russell Wilson up there on the MVP list. 29 against Carolina. They look very lopsided this year, and that's probably one of the biggest reasons why Matt Ryan looks so bad and why Julio just doesn't look like the best receiver in the league. Even though I definitely think Julio's talent-wise best receiver in the NFL. I think Matt Ryan is really regressed as a quarterback. I still think he's at least in the top 10 quarterbacks, and there's a lot of players that just look like that. They just don't look well because of how their team progresses.
A lot of it too, and they've had this problems since last year, even just the O-line.
Yeah, definitely.
This year with injuries, they like offensive lines, they need the games like consistently. What am I thinking of? Like just game after game after game of being together, because they build this cohesiveness and a better blocking ability for their quarterback. And when you have guys that just have to go in and play this game because of a new injury, that's a whole new guy. They got to figure out communication, and the whole new blocking thing. So,
yeah, you're exactly right. The O-line is a huge contributor to that, and I'm not sure how they've put up as many points as they have with that O-line, but
that also taking the loss of Tevin Coleman, that also took a big hit, because
took away the depth chart.
The same running back, and then Ito Smith, and you guys have a couple other guys that have been doing okay, just enough to keep a defense from straight up just rushing the quarterback and forcing bad passes.
Yeah, Ito Smith, particularly in the early season, was looking really good, and then Devontae Freeman started to regress. So there they were kind of having a little bit of a upside, but Ito Smith took that hit, took that injury, and Devontae Freeman's just looking bad. He's just looking like one of the worst backs in this league, one of the worst starting backs. So. And then bring in the O-line again. You got two new guys that they drafted last year in the first round. A lot of Falcons fans were angry with that, with those picks. Both of those guys haven't done much against New Orleans on Thanksgiving night. I believe they gave up 6 sacks. I believe that was the amount of sacks. It might be more, might be less. I think it was around 6. And also, he was pressured over 55 times.
Wow.
So... yeah.
That's not a good stat.
I think that's the most in the league. I'm pretty sure that's the most in the league this entire season. So, I don't know. NFC South was looking the Falcons and the Bucks at the beginning of this year, and then the Saints kind of are going to just dominate it. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just flipped on you like that. Really, because we were talking about the beginning of the season.
Especially after the Saints-Rams game, that really made the Saints look like they were about to have another 7-9 season kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the Saints were kind of going to bounce off a little bit and fall behind where they needed to be. And it looked like it after, what's happened in the playoffs the past 2 times. But they're pretty resilient. You got to give them that. They're 10-2. They're first. And those guys are resilient for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
for tonight, you guys got anything else you want to mention? It's almost 8, so you can end it here if you guys want, but it's up to you guys.
I'm good for now.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it off here for this episode.
All right, all good. Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
we
sir.
talked about a lot today, guys. My dog's
Yep.
going crazy. All good, though. All right.
Hey, shut that dog up. No, I was kidding.
Sorry,
Anyways,
that was
guys,
me.
yeah, thank you guys for tuning into the football forecast, and we will see you all next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Appreciate you
Peace
guys
out.
coming in and listening. We'll see you next week.